What if one song could bring a room to tears and make even the strongest leaders pause? At a charity gala, a war veteran's emotional performance did just that, moving Donald Trump to tears and reminding us all of the true cost of sacrifice. This is the moment when music became a tribute to those who gave everything. Are we truly honoring them? The grand ballroom of the Freedom and Honor Gala at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel shimmered under the glow of dazzling crystal chandeliers. Political figures, business leaders, and celebrities had all gathered to honor the veterans who had dedicated their lives to the nation. The soft clinking of glasses filled the air as champagne flowed, mingling with hushed yet respectful conversations. On the grand stage, framed by deep blue velvet curtains, the American flag hung solemnly, reflecting the ambient glow of the lights. At the front table, President Donald Trump adjusted his tie as he listened to the evening's host, a retired four-star general, recount stories of resilience and sacrifice from the veterans in attendance. His expression momentarily shifted to one of quiet reflection, an unusual stillness in the midst of the formal proceedings. After a round of polite applause for the speeches, the general lowered his voice and turned to the audience. Tonight, we have a special guest, someone who has endured experiences few of us could ever truly imagine. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Conversation ceased, glasses were placed down, and all eyes turned toward the stage. Even Trump leaned forward slightly, his focus intensifying. The general continued. Sergeant Lucas Barrett served 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. He was awarded the Purple Heart for injuries sustained during an ambush near Kandahar. But tonight, he is here to share something that goes beyond the battlefield. Please welcome a true hero. Applause erupted as a tall man in his 50s walked onto the stage. His steps were slightly weighted, and though he wore a sharp navy blue suit, the scars of war were evident in the way he carried himself. Lucas adjusted the microphone and looked out over the elegant crowd. His eyes scanned the room, briefly meeting President Trump's gaze before settling on the audience as a whole. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I know events like this are meant to show support for those who have served, but I also know that sometimes people forget what that truly means. The room fell silent. His voice, steady yet heavy with emotion, carried through the hall. I don't say this with bitterness, he continued. I say it because I've been there. I've seen what war takes away. I've watched young men go off to fight and never return. And for the longest time, I didn't know how to make peace with that. He paused, drawing a deep breath. But one night, lying in a hospital bed, my body covered in wounds, I did the only thing I could do. A hush fell over the crowd. He glanced down at his calloused hands, then lifted his gaze with quiet resolve. I wrote a song. A murmur rippled through the room. No one had expected this. This song isn't about me, he said, shaking his head. It's about the ones who never got the chance to stand here. The ones who gave everything. The ones who fought beside me but never made it home. He pulled out a small, worn piece of paper, its creases showing that it had been folded and unfolded many times. I wrote it for them. And tonight I want to share it with you. With a subtle nod to the pianist in the corner, the first soft notes of a piano melody filled the hall. Lucas closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. Within seconds, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. His voice was deep and rich, filled with raw emotion. More than just a melody, his song carried memories, sacrifices, and words left unspoken. As the final note faded into silence, an overwhelming stillness took over. Then applause erupted. Not the polite, rehearsed kind, but genuine, thunderous applause. People rose to their feet, some clapping, some wiping away tears. Others simply stood motionless, as if still trapped in the gravity of the moment. But amidst the ovation, one man remained seated. President Trump did not immediately rise. He remained still, his hands clenched together, his gaze locked on Lucas, not just watching, but feeling. Then, slowly, he stood. But what he did next left the entire room speechless. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. As Trump stepped toward the stage, there was no familiar grin, no playful wave to the cameras. His expression was somber, heavy with meaning. There was only a quiet, respectful gaze as he approached Lucas Barrett, the soldier at the microphone. A silent moment passed between them before Trump slowly extended his hand. Lucas hesitated for a heartbeat before clasping it firmly, their handshake lingering an unspoken bond between two men who understood the weight of sacrifice. Then, unexpectedly, Trump placed his hand on Lucas's shoulder. The room stilled. Camera snapped, capturing the rare vulnerability of a man often seen through the lens of power. Leaning in, Trump spoke softly, just loud enough for the microphone to catch his words. They'll never be forgotten. Lucas swallowed, his eyes glistening. He nodded, not out of duty, but in shared understanding. Trump released his grip, his gaze now far away, lost in thought, before turning back to the audience and clapping. The room exploded in applause, not just for Lucas, not just for the song, but for every soldier who never made it home. What should have been another routine moment, however, lingered in the air, charged with something deeper, something real. As Lucas stepped down from the stage, Trump's hand gently found his arm. "Walk with me," he said. Lucas, after a brief pause, nodded. Together, they moved to the edge of the ballroom, away from the flashing lights and rehearsed speeches. Secret Service agents flanked them, but for the first time that night, it felt like an unguarded moment. Trump studied him carefully. That song wasn't just music. He stopped, shaking his head slightly, as if searching for the right words. Lucas finished the thought. It was the truth. Trump exhaled deeply, a heaviness in his voice. "I've met many veterans, heard many stories, but I've never heard it put like that." He looked at Lucas. "You served in Afghanistan?" Lucas nodded. "Yes, sir. 2 doors. First at 22. Second, he trailed off, memories surfacing unbidden. And that's when you got hit." Lucas didn't flinch. "Yes, sir." Trump's gaze sharpened, the reality of the conversation settling in. "Do you still talk to your unit?" Lucas's jaw tightened. The ones who made it home? Yes. Too many didn't. A long silence followed, thick with the weight of those unspoken words. Trump sighed, his voice softer now. "People say I don't understand the military, that I don't feel what they feel. Maybe they're right, but I listen. And tonight I heard you." Lucas looked at him, unsure of what to say, but in that moment he didn't need to. Trump turned to N-Aid. "Get this out there. Make sure every veteran in this country hears this." Within hours, the performance went viral. News outlets covered it. Social media shared it far and wide. Some headlines praised the tribute. Others noted Trump's rare emotional moment, but it was the messages Lucas received that told the real story. Veterans, Gold Star families, strangers who had always felt unseen. A soldier from Oklahoma who lost his brother in Afghanistan. A woman from Texas who served but never felt noticed. A father from Ohio who had folded a flag over his son's coffin. Each message carried the same words: "Thank you for saying what we couldn't." But one stood out above all. It was from Marjorie Tillman, the mother of Private Jason Tillman, one of Lucas's fallen brothers. "I never got to hear my son's voice again, but last night I heard it in your song." Lucas's hands trembled as he typed his reply. "He's never been forgotten." In that moment, Lucas knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The days that followed blurred together. Lucas, a man who had always shunned the spotlight, found himself at the center of something much larger than himself. The video continued to spread. Talk shows analyzed it, but it wasn't the media coverage that mattered, it was the calls, the voices on the other end of the line. One morning, Lucas made a decision. He reached out to a number he'd received not from the media, not from a politician, but from a small nonprofit that helped veterans share their stories through music. And just like that, a song became a movement. Because no soldier is truly gone as long as their story is told. Some moments transcend the noise. They cut through the static and remind us of the real people behind the headlines. Lucas Barrett's story wasn't just about a song. It was about honor, sacrifice, the true cost of freedom, and the reminder that some voices, no matter how quiet, deserve to be heard. In that moment, the song wasn't just music, it was a tribute to every sacrifice made, a reminder of the true cost of freedom. Even Donald Trump was moved to tears, unable to hold back the weight of the emotion. This powerful performance showed us the strength of veteran stories and the power of remembering. If this moment touched you, don't let it fade. Like, share, and subscribe to honor those who gave everything for us. Let's keep their voices alive.